Hey guys, I'm Mason, and this is Wrestling in the Dark, the only professional wrestling podcast brought to you by a blind wrestling fan. Welcome to part 3 of my AEW Double or Nothing special. It's the aftermath with Double or Nothing a few days behind us now. I've had a time to sit and process my thoughts, and now I'm prepared to share a few of them. So, AEW Double or Nothing. Did I like it? Did I not? If you want to find out, stick around and I'll share a few of my thoughts on AEW's debut pay-per-view. So let me start off by saying that this is not going to be the same sort of thing as my usual podcasts. I think anyone who's listened to the show before will know what my sort of style is when I'm reviewing a takeover or a main roster pay-per-view or even just the weekly NXTs. I like to do a full recap. I like to go through the running order, to go through the spots in the matches and all the stuff that I liked, and I'm just not going to be able to do that this time. Now I just want to give a little bit of context, because before I really exposed myself to the indie scene, I'd tried every now and again to get myself into it. I'd stick on a random Ring of Honor where I wouldn't know anything that was going on, and it'd be some crazy match that frankly was just probably a bit beyond what I wanted from wrestling at the time. I feel like in the last couple of years, probably even more so since I've lost my sight, I've really grown to appreciate work rate, basically move sets, and I really do enjoy going through those spots in a match, because for me now, with my eyesight being completely gone, I'm really focused on the commentary and the story, that sort of thing. And in my opinion, if I can go through the match and give as many spots as I can, then that proves that the commentary is doing a good job, that they didn't leave me lost, that I took in the things that they were trying to communicate. And so that's why when I'm going through, like I said, like a takeover, I'll just go through it spot by spot with as many spots as I can, and give you the ones that they did good on and give you the ones that they did bad on, etc, etc. But it was just a completely different experience, and the only way I can think to explain the difference between going from only ever really watching WWE to jumping into Double or Nothing is talkback. So when I first lost my sight and I started using talkback on my phone, it was really, really difficult, because it was just a computer, a robotic voice that was talking to you, and it's got no inflection, and it just doesn't read things out the way that you would necessarily read it or someone would say it. And a lot of people, a lot of other blind people have their talkback a lot faster than I do, and I feel like I have mine on fairly slow. But even then, some people, when they listen to my talkback on my phone, they're like, I can't believe you can understand that. Like, God, that's going so fast. And I feel like I've got it on a fairly slow setting. So that's sort of what it's like going from WWE to this Double or Nothing, because I'm completely used to the WWE commentary with their style, the way they present things, the way they call things, all of the moves more or less that they call. I know what it is, and it's fairly easy to go and find out. If not, jumping into the Double or Nothing commentary was just so it was a great experience, but it was also sort of frustrating and very, very confusing. I usually cover NXT because I prefer the NXT commentary. I like Morrow, I like Nigel McGuinness a lot. Most people who've listened to this before will know that Nigel is my absolute favourite in WWE when it comes to the commentary. And it was just a jarring sort of experience jumping in, and all of a sudden you've got all of these wrestlers that I've never heard of before, that I've never been exposed to, on different levels of that, as well, because even someone like Kenny Omega, who I've heard quite a lot about, he's got so many moves that I don't even know what they are. I know what, say, the Angel's Wing and the V-Trigger are, but other than that, there's so many moves that get used that I just don't even know, that I've never been exposed to, or if I have, they're called something else to what they would be called in WWE. They have variations, and it's so fast. And that's why I feel like it's sort of similar to Talkback, because I feel like, give it a few months, a year, give me a little bit of time to watch AEW weekly and their pay-per-views that are coming up, I feel like I will get used to it. Unfortunately, I do feel like when I get used to it, there's still going to be a lot of moves that I just know by name, whereas in these days, when I watch WWE, I spent a lot of time, playing the games, putting together my creator wrestlers, going through those move sets, looking what they were called. So that's beneficial to me, because even when, let's say, a few months back, I was trying to find out what one of. I was trying to figure out what the fairy tale ending was, I think, from Tommaso Ciampa, and I was asking what it is, and someone tried to describe it to me, and I was like, okay, is that the implant facebuster? And they were like, yeah, it's that. And I think that's one of the Tommaso Ciampa's ones anyway. And I just remember that experience, and that's because I spent so much time going through those movesets, but I've not seen any of these moves that were being used in Double or Nothing, and it was a really, really interesting experience. Read the commentary. Let me make this perfectly clear. I don't have many complaints when it comes to Double or Nothing, but there was a lot of times that I just felt really, really lost, because there was so much going on. There's so many back and forths and different spots. I actually got fairly decent notes for the first few matches. The buy-in matches in particular, I got good notes for, and the first few matches of the show I got decent notes for. But even listening to them back, I just didn't realise at the time how many I'm making, because it's write this thing down, enter, and it's on a new line, and then I just do the next thing, enter, and you don't realise how many times that you're doing it until you start looking back. And I thought, oh well, I might at least be able to do a recap of the Casino Battle Royale. And there's just no chance, because because there were so many spots, there were so many things that happened that I just couldn't possibly run through all of them. But that's sort of my lengthy and sort of overblown explanation of what it was like, at least going into it. I'm going to get to my thoughts on it in a little minute, but I wanted to start with all of that, because I wanted to explain that even though I'm not going to be able to do the recap aspect of it, and I'm not going to be able to go into the matches too much, it was literally only because it's a style that I'm completely unfamiliar with, that I think that I'll grow used to, and so you're just going to have to bear with me on it, basically. So yeah, I'm going to get to my actual thoughts on the show. So there was a lot that I enjoyed about this show. There was just so many cool things that happened that I just was completely drawn in. I had issues with lagging and stuff, and that maybe took me out a few times, but other than that, I was instantly drawn in. I really liked the gimmick for the Casino Battle Royale. I thought that worked really well, sending 5 guys down every now and again, as opposed to sending one every 2 minutes or whatever. It just, I don't know, it felt chaotic, it felt cool, felt different, and I really enjoyed that. I thought it drew me in. There was plenty of spots in this. I mean, if you weren't interested in watching the show before you started watching this, I'm sure you probably were by the end of it. It was crazy. There was so many things going on in terms of, Jimmy Hammock. That's a completely different gimmick, innit? That Jimmy Hammock, just a completely relaxed wrestler. It just doesn't. I guess it'd be a little bit like Matt Riddle, just completely relaxed. Anyway, Jimmy Havoc running wild with his staple gun. That was really entertaining. Tommy Dreamer was going wild with a trash can at one point. All the big brutal spots with Luchasaurus, with him putting people through tables. Joey Janela, I think it was. It was interesting to see people highlighted like Dustin Thomas, who the commentary made sure to tell you was a double amputee, and that was really interesting. Obviously, as a disabled fan, it's always hard not to be interested when you know that a wrestler also has a disability. So I was really, really invested in him. MJF really took it to him in the early moments of the match, and I thought that got in some really nice heel heat, but he was sat out for quite a lot of the match after that, and I was disappointed. He hit a 619 at some point, followed by a 450, and I just thought, well, that's just one step up, isn't it, from a frog splash? I really did enjoy this match. There was a lot to enjoy out of it. I like that at the end of the match they played the replays of all of the more major spots, and I thought that was really nicely done. I enjoyed the presentation of Excalibur and Alex together. I didn't really feel that JR. I never really had that emotional connection to JR, and whilst I think that he did pretty well during the show, I also don't feel that he added anything other than nostalgia and his expertise. I guess he lends that to it, and he's there training the younger guys or whatever. But I really did enjoy those two just going at the commentary on their own. I thought it sounded a lot more. It definitely sounded a lot more sports-like, more like what it sounds like when I've occasionally tried to put, say, like a UFC pay-per-view on or something like that. I thought it sounded very, very sports-like, and I was completely drawn in by them. I thought that I think Alex, if that's the main play-by-play guy, again, you're just going to have to bear with me and as I get used to all of this. But the Alex was really, really into it a lot of the time, and I felt that he provided some really nice play-by-play. I never once in this match felt like I was... I never felt like I was lost. I never felt like I missed anything. Anything that I did miss, I felt like they went back and recapped really, really well. It was exciting waiting for the 21 spot to come in. I was like, who's it going to be? And then when it was Hangman Page, I was like, okay, that makes sense. It's just nice, solid booking. He was obviously supposed to beat Pac or whatever, and they just found another interesting way of getting him into that world title match. And I've got no complaints about that either. I want more exposure to him, and I think that that could be a really, really good match, the one that we ended up getting. And I just, like I said, I really, really enjoyed the Casino Battle Royale. There was a lot of people that really stuck out. I didn't feel like anyone really missed out. I feel like most people had at least one sort of crazy spot. Joey Janela stuck out during the match. Enjoyed Luchasaurus. I feel like he stuck out quite a bit with quite a few of his spots. I liked Jimmy Havoc running wild with his staple guns and his acid rainmakers and all that crazy stuff. I just thought it was pretty interesting that it was basically anything goes, and I really don't have anything more to say about this one. I did give it a 5 out of 6. Little did I know that was just going to be more or less the standard for this show. So I'm going to move on from that. And the other buy-in match, obviously, was Kip Sabian and Sammy Guevara. This one, again, really, really nice match. I was thoroughly drawn in by this one, even with the poor quality of the video that I was watching. I just thought that it was like one of those sort of, it was a perfect appetizer, especially knowing what comes later in the show now. I thought it was a perfect appetizer of what was to come, of like, you know, this could easily have been a main event level takeover match. It was just one of those ones that was, it started off technical, it slowly built into a back and forth, then just turned into this crazy spot fest with Sammy Guevara hitting shooting star presses off the barricades and Superman forearms, and just there was just so much going on. I enjoyed getting behind Kip Sabian as the British lad. Thought it was fairly interesting that he had the Harry Potter references in his moveset. That was particularly one of the things that I noticed with the commentary. Just that level of going into the detail with the submission. So like when he locked in the Cruciatus clutch, I think he mentioned that he brought him over and put his left leg over to increase the pressure of whatever that submission hold is. In that sort of case, I don't need to know what the submission is, because I know that his leg's involved somehow with putting pressure, and I know that he's doing something to increase the pressure in the move, basically. So I don't feel like I need to know exactly what it is, although if anyone wants to let me know in the comments, that's fine. Thought it was a bit much, though, that it was like multiple moves. So when Guevara went for the finish and Kip Sabian managed to counter and get him up for the Deathly Hallows, I was like, okay, like the Cruciatus clutch, that's pretty cool, but the Deathly Hallows, feel like it's just that one step too far. But this was, again, by the end of it, I was like, Christ, I'm giving this a 5 out of 6. What am I gonna do? But it's a contextual thing. I think that's what everyone's needs to know about sort of the way that I rate things, is it's not like an overall sort of thing. One of the reasons that I could never really compare this to a Money in the Bank or something like that, it's just because, especially with the rating system, is because when I'm rating what I'm watching, I'm rating it from what I want from that experience. So when I'm watching Money in the Bank, I'm rating those matches from what I expect from a Money in the Bank pay-per-view, and that was one of the reasons why it was so hard to grade any of these matches, and I pretty much stopped after this one, because I just realised that I know nothing about this style of wrestling, and I feel like it's unfair to say, okay, that was like a 5 out of 6 match, because I have no idea. For all I know, this Kip Sabian match was the worst match on the card for other people. Other people are like, what's he talking about? That's a 2 out of 6 match. That was basic. It was basic. And I'm like, wow, that was really good. It really drew me in. And so that's why I can't really compare the two ratings, because or even rate this pay-per-view, because it's just, I need to get used to the way it works and the level that they work at and what they're going to perform at before I start being able to rate it, because this pretty much exceeded my expectations of any sort of pay-per-view, never mind one. It's, like I said, I've just got to get used to how that works. But the buy-in, I felt, was a really, really strong start to the show. Really effective for getting people drawn in. I did feel like they pushed the they pushed how much you needed to buy it just that little bit too much. I guess when you can only really take it in through listening to the commentators, you notice how much they're like, please buy this, and you can watch it on this, and this. And I love that Fight TV was always last. It was always last, and I was like, oh, poor Fight TV, just getting left till last. Yeah, so those were my thoughts on the buy-in. Two really strong matches. The Casino Battle Royale, just a completely new spin on that Royal Rumble Battle Royal type match that I just thought was really effective for showcasing so many of the people that they've got on their roster. And Kip Sabian versus Sammy Guevara, again, I thought was a really interesting match that really drew me in, and I was like, okay, I am ready to watch the rest of the show now. So when it came to the main show, there was a lot that I enjoyed, but I was very lost, as I said, for the most part of it. With the SCU Strong Hearts match, I think that I really enjoyed that. I was thoroughly entertained by SCU's little promo entrance thing, a nice introduction to them for people that might not have seen them before, doing their little "this town is the worst town that I have ever been in" sort of gimmick, with each of them taking it in turns to say stuff, and the crowd was really hot for them. There was that huge SCU chant, and then when whichever one of SCU it was that said 1, 2, 3 SCU, the whole crowd, and I mean the whole crowd, I don't think there would have been any person in that stadium that didn't do that chant with them, and it sounded amazing. The crowd all night pretty much was incredibly hot. I noticed a few down periods, but there was no way that they were going to stay hot for a show that is this bonkers, because it was bonkers. It's so fast paced, I never felt like I had time to breathe, and that's maybe one of the criticisms, although I don't want to call it a criticism, because it made for an incredible pay-per-view, and especially a really strong start for AEW. But I really did feel that I never had a chance to like just chill and like sort of take in what I'd just seen and relax, because it was like, right, we're going to do this match where we're going to have just craziness and back and forth, and then this match where we're going to have craziness and back and forth and big spots, and this one and this one and this one and this one. And it just, after a while, by the time I got to the main event, I was absolutely exhausted. My brain, just trying to keep up with the commentary, was just it was just insanity. But I did really enjoy. I enjoyed this first tag team match. I was a lot more lost for the rest of the tag team matches. I don't know why. Maybe just because I was fresh at this point. I'd only just started watching. My attention was fully focused, and it was, like I said, fresh, and I hadn't been exhausted by the pace yet. I really enjoyed it. The Strong Hearts put in quite a good performance. Obviously, I didn't know who was who. One of the reasons that I enjoy WWE is that I've seen a lot of those people. When I had sight, I could see them. And now there's a lot of people that have joined these days, especially some of the more recent NXT call-ups, like a Ricochet or an Aleister Black, even a Johnny Gargano. I don't think I've seen him. Velveteen Dream, etc. But I know those people enough that I can sort of build an image of them, even though I get surprised by Ricochet being bald, or something, just those sort of things where it's like, oh, you know this about them, and so it's just one of those where, again, I'm going to have to get used to this and get used to the people and get exposure to them so that I can build a bit more of an image of them, because it was really hard to picture what was going on when there's moves happening that I don't know by people that I have no mental image of, and it was quite confusing to keep up with what was going on. I liked that they did the 10-second rule. They've done away with the 5 count for tag teams. So once they tag, they've got 10 seconds to get out of the ring as well, which JR made sure to bury a few times in terms of like, oh well, 10 seconds is a little bit more realistic, a little bit more sports like. 5 seconds is just a little bit ridiculous to ask them to get out. And I was like, yeah, okay, JR, you carry on doing that. It makes me laugh. I never really get annoyed by that sort of stuff. I enjoyed all of the shots that they took at WWE, even though I'm obviously a massive WWE fan, but I don't really care. I've not got that I've not got that feeling of loyalty or pride where I'm like, no, this one's better. And I feel like back in the day, if I'd have been around when WCW was around, I feel like I'd have probably just watched both and enjoyed them and enjoyed the shots that they were taking at each other. I felt the 6-woman tag with Aja Kong and her team and Hikaru Shida and her team, I just felt really, really lost. And I know that a lot of people who can see got confused with this match, man. At one point, JR, and this was probably one of the things that really, really annoyed me, was JR being like, right now I have no idea who's legal, doesn't really matter. And I was like, screw you, JR. Yes, it matters. Yes, it does. You can't be a part of a company that's like, everything matters, wins and losses matter, this is a sport, etc, etc, and then pretend that it doesn't matter who's legal in a match, because I need to know that to know what's going on in the match. And sometimes I wish that commentary, even though they don't put it out over a radio broadcast like they would with football or something like that, I really wish that they would make it more of a focus on telling you what's actually happening. One of the reasons that I've been really enjoying Beth Phoenix on NXT these last couple of weeks is because she seems to want to describe people's body language, describe their facial expressions, etc, etc, and I just think that that's a really important thing, is putting over that visual aspect. They shouldn't be commentating as if you're watching. The point of the commentary is to tell you stuff that you might miss, etc, etc. At the end of the day, you should be able to eat a meal or go and tidy up and listen to a match and not miss anything that happens, in my opinion. Even you lot who can see, I feel like it's the same sort of thing. If you walk away from a match for 10 minutes, or not 10 minutes because that might be the whole match, but if you walk away for a sec, you should still be able to know what's going on. And I really don't have much to say about that match, because after a while my brain just completely switched off, and I just couldn't tell what was going on. The one part of the match that I did really, really enjoy, though, I thought was pretty funny, was the whole crowd stomp clapping, doing the "We Will Rock You," and one of the women just singing along to it. I thought that was I thought whoever that was, and if someone can let me know who it was, they should let me know, because I want to get behind them, because that was a pretty fun part of the match. It's the one part that really stuck out to me. It's the same sort of deal with Best Friends versus Angelico and Jack Evans. This was probably the match that I enjoyed least, and I'm not sure how much it has to do with the actual match, because the video that I was watching, instead of buffering whenever it was struggling, it would skip back 10 seconds. But because I wasn't, I'm not familiar with this style or anything like that, I just didn't think anything of it until I started realising that, like, I started thinking, JR's repeating himself quite a bit. And then I realised what was happening. And it took me a good maybe hour and a half to try and get a video that worked properly. And so by that time I was just sort of like, oh. I do think that the commentary did a really good job, though. This is the thing that I have to make really clear, is that most of my complaints, other than, like the stuff about JR that I said it's not really anything that they can help. I don't think that they made any missteps. For the most part, there was a few, but for the most part, I felt like they stayed on point. They really got into the nitty gritty with the play-by-plays. God, man, some of the exchanges where it's like, this guy does this and he counters into this, counters that, does this, and I was just like, oh, what is going on? I found it difficult to keep track of who was legal and who wasn't. I really liked the character shown by best friends, though, with the wanting to bring it in for a hug and etc. etc. That just instantly sort of shows you what their gimmick is. It shows you what sort of relationship they must have. It's that ultra bromance type friendship or whatever. Jack Evans kept getting hammered in the head, and JR was completely... He was just like, oh, well, eventually you just don't get back into the game. And I thought that added some nice drama to the match. And it's mainly these multi-man matches that I struggled with. Don't get me wrong, I still struggled with the singles matches. Because just, again, it was so fast and there was moves going on that I didn't know. But it was way more these multi-man matches, these tag matches. Even Young Bucks versus the Lucha Brothers. As I was watching it, I was like, I can tell that this is good. I know that if I could see, I would be enjoying it, and I'm sure everyone who can see was enjoying it. I'm really interested to hear from some of my other friends, like Dirty Dan, about what he felt about it, because obviously he's mostly a WWE fan too. I know that you've checked out other promotions from time to time, like Ring of Honor, but I know that for the most part, like me, you're a WWE fan, so I'm just looking forward to seeing what you thought about it more than anything, and what other people like us felt, because I'm still confused now, you know. Looking back on it, it was just so chaotic, and I just past a certain point, it's sort of like an action movie. It's sort of like if I tried to turn on a Transformers movie, and don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to say that it's even slightly equivalent, because I know that it's you know, an action movie is just bam 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 and all that sort of stuff. Just loud noises and bangs and explosions, and that's not what I feel the Young Bucks versus Lucha Brothers was. But it's just that similar sort of thing where, because if there's no audio description during an action film, I just wouldn't watch it, because it just wouldn't draw me in, because there'd be scenes where there was just gunfire and explosions, and I would just completely miss what was going on. But like I said, that was partly my fault, because I've never exposed myself to this style before, and I bet, given a year's time to get used to this sort of stuff, I bet that I would be like, okay, this happened, this happened, this happened, this happened, I liked this about the match, I liked this person did this spot, and I unfortunately just don't know them well enough to give a decent appraisal of the match. Like I said, as I was watching it, it's not like I was bored, and it's not like I was lost, but trying to make notes was impossible, because I'm trying to think about what the note is, like trying to write it down. By that time, there's been 6 or 7 moves. You know, I'm doing it as like someone hits a super kick, and then like by the time I've written someone super kicks someone, it gets back to, you know, I go back to it and that person's dead. They've been like wiped out. They're in the timekeeper's area or something like that. So it was just impossible. And after a while, I just had to stop making notes, because otherwise I just wasn't going to be able to keep up with it. I realised that this section has sort of been all of the stuff that I just felt like I didn't manage to keep up with, but I just wanted to sort of give an honest sort of rundown of how I felt about it all. I am going to get onto the stuff that I enjoyed a bit more in a minute, but I just wanted to sort of get this sort of stuff out of the way, because I just you know, I can't run through it in order, and I just wanted to talk a little bit about the stuff that I struggled with, so that I can end on a bit more of a positive note. I can move on to the positive stuff. But I do want to make it clear, this is not me being negative about the pay-per-view, because I don't feel like they did anything wrong. I just feel like it's just a learning curve that I'm going to have to tackle. So yeah, I'm trying to think whether there was anything else that I really struggled with, but I don't think there particularly was. I mean, I got a little bit lost during Jericho and Kenny, but there was enough in that to save it for me, and actually help to get some enjoyment out of it. So for the most part, I think that's the only real things that I struggled with was just those big multi-man matches and the tag matches, which is a shame, because I do like tag team wrestling, and I do want to get into the tag teams that they're going to have in AEW, because they seem to want to have a focus on that tag team wrestling. So I really want to get into it, and it's not like I don't enjoy it. I've got, when I first started doing this, I struggled with WWE multi-man matches, but I'd say the last couple of times I've had to cover one, I've done a bit better, especially with tag matches, etc. So yeah, those were the things that I sort of struggled with, and that I just wish that I could have got a little bit more out of, especially with those overseas talents, like the OWE guys, like the Joshi women, like the Lucha Brothers. I just wish that I knew a little bit more, basically. So those matches, while I was watching them, I did enjoy them, probably with the exception of the Joshi women match. I didn't really enjoy that, because there was so much going on that I just couldn't really focus, and I didn't know who anyone was. But other than that, for the most part, I really enjoyed the ones that I watched, and never really felt like I was lost at the time, and did invest in the matches, but it would just be impossible to run through them all. So now let's get on to the things that I enjoyed a little bit more, because there was a lot of stuff in here that I thought was good and thought made it worth watching anyway, even though I struggled. Cody versus Dustin obviously was an incredible match. The story being told was the thing that I was enjoying the most coming into this. It was the thing that I was most invested in. And due to Road to Double or Nothing, I was really, really invested in it. That video package that they played before was really, really, it was just really well done, really well put together. I guess the only other thing that I struggled with this was just something that I've also mentioned with WWE before, is with these special entrances. I wish that they would tell you what is going on, because for a while, during what's going on, it's just like, okay, something's happening. It's the same thing with the Triple H entrance at WrestleMania, where it's just like, at the end of it, Michael Cole was just like, how cool was that? And I was like, oh, it wasn't cool at all, tell me what happened. So I felt the same way, and I ended up having to ask my indie correspondent Glenn. I had to ask him what happened, and he told me about all the Triple H imagery, smashing up the throne stuff, and I think that's pretty entertaining and nice. It's proof that AEW knows the market, because they're going for people like my friend Glenn, who enjoy that sort of stuff, maybe a bit more screw you WWE than I am. Very, very much so. But they just know the market. They know who they're going for. And it was a smart move, a good way of doing it. I know a lot of people have been like, it was a bit of a weird choice going for Triple H, but it makes sense that that he's going after Triple H as opposed to going for Vince. Be a bit weird, wouldn't it? You've got Cody and Brandy, and they are clearly, as much as I'm sure any of you indie fans that listen to this might not like me saying it, they're quite clearly trying to be the Indies version of H and Steph. And so it'd be a bit weird for me if he went for Vince, because it'd be strange. Like, it'd be like they were trying to be Vince and Linda, and they're not. I don't think that's what they're trying to be. He's just trying to Besides, I take issue with people saying that it's just Vince. Anyway, I'm sure that H did stuff while Cody was there that annoyed him as much as stuff that Vince did. So it didn't surprise me that he was taking shots at H at all. I think that was like I said, a smart move, knowing their audience. The match itself was really, really entertaining. It really felt like both men were out to prove a point. It was really cool that Dustin had the Dusty's favourite shirt, which the crowd made sure to chant. They were really, really into it. They were really into both men as well. But I felt like as the match went on, what happened should happen, and everyone slowly got more and more behind Dustin and started to turn on Cody a little bit more. I mean, it's not like he ever got truly nuclear heat or that they ever truly turned on him, but they were definitely more behind Dustin towards the end of the match, and I think that the blood had a lot to do with that. I thought that was a really nice touch to the match, really old school. And that's what this match was. It was just them trying to honour their dad and having just a cracking old school match. There was a little bit of a botched call later on that I was a little bit annoyed at, where when the crossroads started getting used, I think that Dustin hit the first one. You feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. And I really like that after he hit that crossroads, Cody sort of turned nasty after that. You got the low blow and then a crossroads and then another low blow. That's like, how dare you use your move on me? And after that, he got a lot more vicious. So then, there was a few more crossroads, and one of them was for a near fall, and they just didn't say who was going for it. And considering that both men were using the move, it just felt a little bit of a letdown. I was like, oh, you could have told me who did that one, because it was a really nice near fall, and it would have been even nicer if I'd known which man was going for the win. I really liked Cody just healing it up on his brother, being the he was just far more the aggressor in this match, really rubbing his knuckle into Dustin's wound, which they made sure to really play up, tasting his blood. And obviously the amount of blood that there was that the commentators were putting over. I really liked that at one point Cody went for a cover and Dustin kicked out, and they played it up as Cody was too covered in Dustin's blood and it was creating a too slippery of a surface. And this was just a match that to me really, really stood out. When the when the turnbuckle got exposed, I was just like, oh, someone's going into that, and as soon as it happened, I was like, oh, it's just one of those spots, and an exposed turnbuckle spot is just one of those spots that I'm like, oh no, because it's just one of those that is just gonna hurt, and knowing that he was cut open after that, it did add drama to the match, but something that I've been asked, I think, by RJ Meltzer from Discord before, asked me if it lessened the image of the Becky Lynch of the Becky Lynch thing when she got covered in her blood because of the Nia Jax thing. They said, does that lessen the impact of it? And I think that it does. I think not having that brutal imagery sort of lessened it, even though I was like, oh cool, they're using blood. I do feel like I maybe would have been a little tiny bit more invested had I been able to see it and actually like witness that image. Brandy getting involved was really interesting. I enjoyed most of the Brandy Road stuff throughout the night. She got involved a few times, ended up spearing Dustin. She got sent out, and the crowd actually booed quite big for that. And yeah, so like I said, although I could never run through this and go through it spot by spot because of how much stuff there was, I do feel like there was a lot in this match that really drew me in. I felt like the story was really, really cool, and Cody coming out of it with the win was the right thing. I like that he was the heel in this match by far, and even more so towards the end of the match. And then you get the swerve, which I thought was really, really well done. Cody comes back and he's like, you don't get to retire. And I was like, ooh, is he gonna like book him in another match against him? Like, I don't know, I sort of thought he was gonna go full heel and be like, you've got to fight me this place and this place. I'm like, I'm not gonna stop fighting you until you can't go anymore, or just something like that. But he said, you know, we did a meeting and I put my name down for a match against the Bucks with a partner of my choice, and I don't need a partner, I don't need a friend, I need my older brother. And I really like that. Cody was super emotional while he was saying it. You could really hear the emotion in his voice. Everyone in the crowd, you could tell, was really into it. There wasn't even any real, I mean, maybe there was, maybe I was just drawn in with it, but I didn't really notice any real crowd reaction because I think everyone was just so drawn into it. The women's match I thought was really entertaining. The triple threat with Britt Baker, Nyla Rose, and Smiley Kylie Ray, which turned out to be a fatal four-way, was a real highlight of the night. I really enjoy women's wrestling anyway. I've been getting really antsy with the way that the women have been booked in WWE recently. The way that they've been used and how little they've been used has been it's been frustrating me a little bit. So I was looking forward to seeing this and seeing the women being allowed to really take it up to the max, and they did. The beginning of the match, everyone came out, and then Brandy Rhodes came out, and I was like, oh, what the hell are you doing, Brandy? Because, like, you know, the commentators are putting over that she's in a ring gear, and they're making it sound like she's going to insert herself into the match. And I was like, oh, what the hell are you doing? This is such a Stephanie McMahon thing to do. Why? I don't need this again. And then she brought out someone else instead, and I thought that was a really nice swerve, and it was Awesome Kong. And then the match got started, and it was absolute craziness. Smiley Kylie Ray stood out to me big time during this pay-per-view. Her little introductory bit at the beginning with Alicia A was just, she was the most excited anyone's ever been, and it was, as much as it sort of annoyed me, it certainly stuck with me, certainly made me remember her. And then, you know, you've instantly got a feel for what she's like. She's this happy, bubbly, just excessively over the top person, and it was entertaining. Britt Baker, I had heard a fair bit coming into this, so I was looking forward to her. Nyla Rose was my pick during the predictions, so that was cool. And then I'd never really seen an Awesome Kong match either, so that was, again, I was really looking forward to that. The highlight of the match, though, was Awesome Kong slamming all three women. I think it was sort of one of those Tower of Doom sort of spots where one woman's on the top rope, and then someone goes to try and get her, the other one goes to try and get both of them, and then an Awesome Kong just came and just slammed all three of them. I thought that was really, really interesting. That was more or less the story of the match, was trying to overcome Awesome Kong. She was just like this video game boss, you know, where she was just completely unstoppable, and you could stop her for maybe a minute or two, but she'll be back. And I really like that they played up that she was sort of stealing Nyla Rose's thunder, because Nyla Rose is supposed to be the big, powerful, strong woman of the division, but, you know, then Awesome Kong come in, and I like that they were playing up that might put Nyla Rose off her game a little bit. Towards the end of the match, you know, there was the spot where I think Nyla Rose speared Awesome Kong into the steps. That was really cool, proper OMG moment. I like that sort of in the early moments of the match, I think Smiley Kylie tried to go for something on Britt Baker, Britt managed to like, counter her, and then Kylie was like, I'm sorry, you know, I was just trying my hardest. Like trying to, like, actually apologising for going after her. And I thought that was a really, really cool to beat. Britt Baker came out the winner, as most people thought that she would. And I did really, really enjoy that match. I think, other than the Cody match, it might have been one of my matches of the night. I just really enjoyed being able to see some women's wrestling just proper unleashed and let go to the max, and know what those women could do. And I felt like it was a really good introduction to all of them, a really good introduction to what the AEW style of women's wrestling is going to be, and I can't wait till I'm more used to it, to be honest. But this is definitely one of the ones that I felt like I just really, really enjoyed from start to finish. Never felt lost, never felt bored, it never let up, and it was just really, really awesome to watch. So, you know, Cody versus Dustin and the triple threat women's match, I would just be like, yep, that's instantly worth a watch. I really enjoyed the AEW World Championship presentation. They managed to establish a fairly decent main event scene just with one segment. You have MJF come out. Well, Bret Hart came out first to present the championship. Then MJF came out and he talked a lot of crap about everyone, about Hangman and about the crowd, calling him fat white trash, talking about how good he was. Really, really good heel promo, really smarmy, really believes in himself, thinks he's the best. Was a really good promo. The only thing that I wasn't sure about was this came really, really soon after the Cody Dustin match, and he was making jokes about Hangman Page and him having a bum knee, and saying, you know what happens to a horse when it has a bum knee? You take it out back and you shoot it. And I felt like that was a little bit, it was just a little bit too close to the Cody Dustin match for that reference, because you've already had that sort of reference in the video package for Cody versus Dustin, and I just felt like it was a little bit soon for it. But other than that, I thought it was a really, really good promo. Then you had like Jungle Boy come out and Jimmy Havoc and a few other people, and it just turned into a bit of a melee, and it was just a really smart way of doing things. It showed you who they're going to have going for that world title. It makes it look like a prestigious belt that people want to go for. Just really enjoyed that. Yeah, I thought it was a really, really well done presentation of the belt, a really good way to introduce it. Even though I didn't get much out of the Young Bucks match, I did like the story going into it. The fact that the Bucks are the far more experienced tag team, but they haven't wrestled in quite a while. Lucha Brothers have only been teaming recently, but they worked 18 hours ago. They've not got the ring rust, etc., etc. I thought that was a really, really interesting dynamic for the match. Made me really wonder what was going to happen. That was sort of the main point that I got from that match, and I really enjoyed it. Omega versus Jericho, I thought was really, really awesome. It, again, other than Cody versus Dustin, probably the match that I was most excited about coming into it. Obviously, Jericho is my guy in this. Even taking aside the WWE stuff, you know, although you can't really. I just think I really enjoy Chris Jericho, because I really enjoy that he constantly managed to reinvent himself, keep himself relevant, and I just feel really good for the guy that he's, you know, doing this AEW thing now, and working with the New Japan stuff, and really enjoy this insolent character that he's playing. It was a brawly match, a very brawly match, but also still had some really, really cool, nice spots in it. I enjoyed Jericho trying to work that cruiserweight style a little bit more, going back to his older days, harkening back to the WCW stuff, using springboard drop kicks, that sort of stuff. going for the Boston Crab and transitioning into the Lion Tamer instead. All of that sort of stuff I thought was really, really cool. Probably one of my favourite parts of the match was when they were out on the apron and Jericho went for the Tiger Bomb on Omega and then just decided, nah, screw you, actually eat table instead, and just dumped him through the table. And it was just a really, really nice spot that I thought just showed that disregard that Jericho has for anyone who isn't him. Just going for, like I said, going for an actual move and then just deciding nah and just dumping them instead was just a really, really nice character spot. At one point Jericho got put through a table and they really put over that his arm hit the entrance ramp as he was going through it. I really thought that Jericho having that looming threat of the Judas effect was a really nice part to the match. Sorry about that. I really enjoyed getting exposed to Kenny Omega. Now, this is one of the matches that I don't have too much to say about it because it was so intriguing and it drew me in so much that it's actually hard to remember what happened. I took no notes whatsoever. Like I didn't even realise. I thought that I'd at least taken a few, but I looked back through my notes and I got to a certain point and I was like, there's no Kenny Jericho notes, and it's just because I was so drawn in by it and I was enjoying it so much that I didn't want to have to take any notes. I didn't want to write stuff down and just miss what was going on. I just thought it was incredible watching Jericho be this insolent, horrible man, really, really trying to take it to Omega. It's not even like he's just trying to beat him. He's just got no regard for him, no respect for him. He's got no respect for anyone, and that's why I'm really, really invested in the work that he's doing at the minute. One of the things that the commentary made sure to put over with the finish of the match is that he never fainted for the Judas effect. He never teased it. He just kept it in his back pocket, kept it there, and when he eventually hit it, it was such a oh my god moment. It really came out of nowhere, but not in the terms of, say, how a match sometimes can just end suddenly and you're like, what just happened? It was like he hit him with the Judas effect and I was like, oh, he's gonna kick out of it. Oh no, he didn't kick out, and it was just like, holy crap. It was a more or less a perfectly clean win that just came at a big moment. It was just that Jericho hit the bigger move, and I just thought it made it feel like it had a lot of impact. And then Jericho getting on the mic and being like, yeah, I'm going to be the world champion, and you lot owe me a thank you for how much of a good night you've had, because AEW is only happening for me, and I want to thank you. All of you can just thank me, and trying to start them getting to do a thank you Jericho chant, which they absolutely refused to do and just booed him instead. And how incredible is his heel work at the minute? I just can't believe it. He's one of those heels that I want to boo him, I really do, but everything he does I'm like, oh, he's so cool. Like I said with the commentary, I really, really enjoyed Excalibur and Alex. I even enjoyed JR for the most part, but I was really impressed with Alex and Excalibur. I thought Alex sounded quite a lot like King at times, with the way that he freaked out, the way that he sold the more dramatic parts of the match, but never had any Lawlerisms. There was no stupid little jokes or anything. It was just that sort of like kind of high-pitched squealing type stuff. But like I said, it wasn't exactly like that, but it did remind me of that style and did sound a little bit like him. I also noticed a few things that you could maybe say were a bit more like a Mauro Ranallo, like with when Marco Stunt got eliminated from the Casino Battle Royale. That was like he said something about getting pounced out of the ring and Stump gets dumped, and I was like, okay, that's sort of a Morrowism. Sorry, that was my keyboard. It's sort of a Morrowism, but it also wasn't annoying, didn't feel obnoxious. I do feel like a lot of the Morrow stuff can get a little... Right, I'm really sorry for the sudden cut there. I'm not sure why it stopped recording, but I was talking about Morrow and his Morrowisms, and I was just saying that it can feel a little bit obnoxious, especially with the stuff that he's been doing with Back to the Future, now that Kushida is in NXT. But the overall, I really felt that the commentary did a really good job. I'm looking forward to getting to know their style, getting to know just the way that they call things and learning more of the moves and getting more familiar with things. I feel like by the time we get to this time next year, I'm going to be a lot more familiar with how they call things and how everything works, and by then I might be able to give a bit more of a detailed analysis as opposed to just listing stuff that I'd liked and didn't like. Like I said, I never really felt bored during this, and it's difficult to really put it up against something like a Money in the Bank. I've been trying to think of whether I enjoyed it more or less than Money in the Bank, and I think in some ways you could say that I enjoyed it more because I didn't come away feeling annoyed like I did with Money in the Bank because of the Brock Lesnar stuff. So that was, one thing. There definitely wasn't as much stuff as I could criticise, at the time with Money in the Bank. I criticised the length of the Joe match, and there was a lot of botched calling that I didn't like and stuff like that. But this is just on a completely different level, and that's why it's really difficult to gauge how much I enjoyed it, because it's just a completely new thing for me, a completely new world. I'm really looking forward to seeing how Takeover 25 really compares to this, because although I feel like it's a little bit unfair to try and compare like the trying to compare the main roster and something like this, I also feel like it's a little bit more fair to compare something like Takeover, because even though it's still at WWE style, even though it's still aimed at WWE fans, it's a lot more like this type of show. And I always feel going into those shows that it's just going to be the best one that it's ever been, and I'm really looking forward to Takeover 25. You've got Gargano and Cole 2, you've got the Fatal 4-Way ladder match for the Tag Team Championships, you've got Matt Riddle and Roderick Strong, you've got Io Shirai versus Shayna Baszler. Those are really solid matches that I feel like even hardcore fans would enjoy. And obviously I might be wrong, but I feel like people that would enjoy this sort of pay-per-view would enjoy Takeover as well. So I'm looking forward to come Takeover 25, when I'm going through it and I'm doing my review, I'm looking forward to seeing how it stacks up. Like I said, to sum it all up, there was highs and lows to this pay-per-view for me, but nothing was really... None of those lows were because of the company. None of them were because of the show. I think, as much as it annoyed me that Brandy Rhodes said it in the Road to Double or Nothing episode, that if you didn't feel satisfied at the end of the show, you're not a wrestling fan. I do sort of see where she's coming from, because I think if you can see and you watch this and you like good wrestling and you're interested in the in-ring product and you like movesets and work rate and technical matches, there's just no way you could watch this and not enjoy it. With the pace and all the things that were happening, the stories that were being told, there was no way that you could come out of this without enjoying it. I highly enjoyed it, and I found it, well, you know how I found it because I've explained it all now. Like I said, it was a really enjoyable experience. It felt like it just never stopped going once it got started, and that maybe is the one thing that I feel like I could criticise them for rather than me, is that as much as people criticise WWE for having those matches, like the cool-off match. You do sort of need that, because it was just one of those things going... I mean, luckily they did do, between the Cody and Dustin match and the Young Buck stuff, they did do the title presentation, but even that felt fast-paced and sort of intense because of what was going on. So there was never... Okay, that happened, that's just happened, wow. It was just like, okay, well, that's just happened, next thing. And that's just really what it felt like sometimes. But other than that, I really enjoyed it, even though I haven't rated anything, and I'm not even going to give the pay-per-view itself an actual rating, other than saying that I really recommend it. If you haven't watched it, I mean, you know most of the things now because you've listened to this, but I'd still recommend a watch, because there is definitely stuff that I haven't said. There's definitely spots that happen that I haven't said. There's stuff that I'll have got wrong and stuff that I'll have missed, and I just really recommend that you go and watch this if you're ready for this sort of style. If you're more of a person that's like me and more of a WWE fan, you might not enjoy this as much, because it really was more focused on the in-ring stuff, even though focused on what was happening in the ring. And if you aren't quite as into that as some of the more hardcore fans, then this might leave you behind in the dust a little bit, like it did with me. But I'd still say give it a chance and see how it goes. I'm definitely going to be sticking with it. I'll definitely try and review Fight for the Fallen, etc, etc, and I'll definitely still try and talk about the weekly shows, but it's gonna be an interesting learning curve experience. But I still felt like it was a positive experience, even if it left me confused at times. So those were my thoughts on AEW's Double or Nothing pay-per-view. It was an interesting experience, one that I will definitely look forward to having again. But what did you think? Did you enjoy it? Were you confused? Were you left behind? What was your favourite part? Let me know in the comments down below. I'm interested to see what other people thought of this pay-per-view, whether it was a case of me struggling because of my eyes, or maybe it was just a little bit too fast for other people too. If you want to stay up to date with WITD, make sure to hit that subscribe button and the notify bell, give me a like, make me feel good, and then you'll be in the loop and you'll never miss an episode. I hope you enjoyed AEW's Double or Nothing. I hope you enjoyed this review, and I hope to see you again. Right guys, I'm off, and you should have a good one.